Hey, I am traumatized by what my roommates have done last night, and I will never recover from it. What's up, it's the Culture Detective here, desperately trying to find a new apartment to move in so that I may have a slightly better life in this godforsaken city. And also, I'm going to be doing an album review on the new Beth Gibbons album, Lives Outgrown. So Beth Gibbons was the front woman of the band Portishead, which is one of the pioneers and one of the most important bands in the history of trip hop. Now, admittedly, I am not that familiar with Portishead's music prior to listening to this album. I've heard of their name, I know of them, but I've never really listened to their music in detail. So I decided to, before reviewing Lives Outgrown and before listening to Lives Outgrown more, I listened to more Portishead, particularly their debut album Dummy, and oh my god, the music they make. I thought their music is going to be like alt rock and something kind of poppy and rocky, but no, they make extremely melancholic, slow, forlorn, sad, groovy music that sounds like James Bond theme songs, and they are infectious. They're dark, they're surreal, but there's just something about Portishead's music that just sort of sucks you in. It's magnetic. The track Sour Times have been on rotation on my Spotify for the last few days because of that. So obviously Lives Outgrown is nothing like Portishead's music, but the moody darkness still retains, but this time in a different form, because essentially this is the new Beth Gibbons solo album since a long, long, long time ago, and she has been keeping a pretty private life, so nobody really knew when she's gonna drop more music. But here we go. Lives Outgrown. As you can probably tell from the album cover, it is another really dark and forlorn album, and I don't use the word dark lightly. Essentially, it is a cinematic and dense selection of singer-songwriter works, mostly chamber folk, but also there are so many dense and beautifully arranged moments on the album that is sort of beyond chamber folk and just borders on like movie soundtrack or something. So the album opener Tell Me Who You Are Today starts off with folky guitars, meandering spacey drums. It is a fantastic tone setter for the rest of the album, but in contrast it's just not as good. The rest of the album is just every single track are equally amazing, equally painful, equally tortured, equally thought-provoking, equally cinematic. So we have Floating on the Moment, which is one of the lead-up singles to the album. It is a cerebral skeletal track with a tinge of vibraphones, forlorn backup singers, and whispery kids choir vocals, and lyrics singing, all trying but can't escape, all going to nowhere. Even though I'm not an old man, I can, through these lyrics, feel the pain and the sort of the helplessness of growing old, seeing time win over you and not being able to do anything about that. It is melancholic, it is forlorn, and it just sort of sticks with you. Then we have the track Burden of Life, which is lyrics about the woes of life and living, going against time. I love the detuned string sections that feel rustic and off-kiltered. Then following that, we have Lost Changes, which is a song about a love that slowly gets duller and blander. Love losing meaning, which is, again, like, I'm unfamiliar with the departments of love, but things feeling meaningless, things feeling empty, is a pretty universal and timeless concept that I feel from time to time in my own life as well. And seeing it being laid out so barren on this track, especially with the building guitars that feel genuinely sad and pained. It's truly haunting. Then we have the track Rewind with its angular guitars and organic drums. The way the guitars and drums sort of swell and then go quiet and swell and go quiet. There's a lot of ebb and flow on this track. Lyrically, this track is about time moving fast, so much so that she can't stop it, and how much she wants to rewind time. Reaching Out is one of the more fast-paced tracks on the album. Here we have spacey drums, an explosive horn section that gets more and more chaotic. And then we have these Tom Yorkish vocal harmonies that are sour but sort of works out on the track. Following that, Oceans is another really depressing and cinematic track where we get wailing vibraphones, watery guitars. It's a very heavy and dense track. I feel like I need to take a breath after listening to this song. Then we have For Sale with its plucky violins, sour vocal harmonies, and lyrics about disillusionment and false hope. The penultimate track on the album is called Beyond the Sun with its pounding rhythmic drums, and it sort of builds up to these chorus vocals, these bam 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 chorus vocals, which is something that I totally didn't expect from something so bare bones, for an album so bare bones, but it really works. The guitars on this track feel really rustic and, dare I say, medieval, yet at the same time it's totally not trying to do a medieval thing. It's still very timeless, very new, but there's just something so primal and organic about it. I guess, if anything, it strips its musical elements down to its bare bones basics that makes Beth Gibbons' lyrics shine even harder. The album ends off with the track Whispering Love, which is, as you can tell from the title, a pretty beautiful ending to the album with tender flutes, birds chirping, creaky violins that goes in the middle of the track all the time, but it adds a little momentum to the track, which I really love. There's also the dreamy chord progression. The straightforward production of this track makes this track feel like a very fitting ending to the album. So yeah, overall this is fantastic. All bangers, no fillers, and by bangers I mean sad, melancholic ballads that will make you question your existence and your age and your mortality and time. And I guess that's everything you should be asking for in a Beth Gibbons album. It is fantastic, and it is one of the best albums of the year so far, kind of giving this album a strong 9 out of 10. So, have you listened to the new Beth Gibbons album? Comments below, let me know, subscribe if you want more, and thanks for watching.